Surprise! We've brought you a very special bonus episode. On this podcast, we share our experiences growing our intuitions, and we want to let the listeners in on how we put all of that into practice through actual readings. Keep listening to hear a live reading of a real client and fellow Synergy to Synastry listener.
Are you looking to get read by us? Email us at synergytosynastry@gmail.com and you could be on the show next. We are also happy to read remotely into any listener submitted questions if you're not comfortable being read live on air with us.
Before we get to the live reading, let's go to a couple listener submitted questions.
The first question: how do I figure out my natal moon phase?
So, this was related to episode 2 of the podcast, the moon and the spring 2024 eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
In that episode, we talked about the moon phases that we were born under. So, if you look up at the sky, is it a full moon, first quarter, something in between? And we had this listener submit this question because, as we realize now in retrospect, we did not actually tell people how to look this up themselves if they wanted to investigate. We will include a link in the show notes, but you can go to astroseek.com and they have a moon phase calculator. And all you have to do is type in your birth details. So, same if you were generating any sort of a chart for yourself, whether it's astrology, human design, etc. If you're someone who doesn't know your exact birth time, you can put in 12 noon, or if you know you were born in the morning, maybe just pick a time in the morning or pick a time at night and just give yourself kind of a rough estimate. But unless it happens to be falling on a specific change during that day, it might be the same moon phase the entire day. It's going to depend on the person. As an example, I have entered in my birth details just to give the listeners an overview of what the output is. So when you go to the search results, it says my moon's in Virgo, it says the degree it's at, it has an extended blurb about that from the astrological side. It says the phase, so it says wax and gibbous, it has the degree, it gives some keywords on what that phase represents. They show a little picture so you can see what it looks like. So for mine, as we mentioned, I was born less than 12 hours before a moon went full. So my picture looks pretty darn close to being a full moon. So that's it. We hopefully answered your question. If you have any follow-ups, please feel free to reach out. All right, let's move on to another listener question. Christine, this one's for you. It's about human design. So we discussed that in episode 4, Life in HD, Human Design. What's an incarnation cross and how can they be interpreted?
This is a really cool question. So, to start off with, I feel like the incarnation cross is a more advanced part of human design. So, if you're getting started looking at your chart, I wouldn't start here. I feel like most times when you look at a chart of human design, you're just seeing the body with kind of shapes and lines connecting it together. A full picture of the human design chart includes a circle around it, and that circle is kind of where the planets lie at the time you were born, kind of like your astrology chart. And there's a big cross in the middle, and that's called the incarnation cross. What the incarnation cross tends to describe for us is our life purpose. And I feel like that's a very heavy statement. I think a lot of people come to these sort of metaphysical sciences looking for their life purpose. So, what I will say is that the incarnation cross can give you an idea of the theme of your life and the direction of where you're going. So, if you're feeling lost and you're saying, I don't know if I'm going in the right direction, following the theme of your incarnation cross could be helpful. But if you're looking to human design to help you feel more in alignment with yourself, I would definitely focus on the more minor aspects, which are your type, your definition. Focus on those parts of the chart first, and then move into your incarnation cross to sort of layer it on. If you're curious what the incarnation cross sort of sounds like when you're looking up your human design chart, it's usually something that starts with right angle cross, juxtaposition cross, the left angle cross, or the no angle cross. We'll also provide a link in the show notes. So if you want to go a little bit deeper into what your incarnation cross means, you can. But again, I highly recommend going to a professional in human design to talk more about this and how it relates to what you're feeling, what you're going through, all the things.
Up next is our listener reading. She's chosen to remain anonymous, so we've edited out her name and any identifying personal details. On to the reading. Okay, so the first thing that I saw when you said your name was a like gigantic bird. I don't know if it was an eagle or it must have been if it was that large. But it just like had its wings and it just kind of like opened up like this. And so it just kind of like flapped its wings. So like it was really big and powerful and it took up a lot of space. I'll look into it more, but that was just the first flash that came through.
So cool because what I saw was almost like the big bang of your energy. It was this like blinding blue light, but as soon as you said your name, it like exploded out and it looks like the big bang.
Interesting. It's really cool.
So we can either look into those images for you or we can answer your questions, whichever way you want to go.
Definitely look into the images.
Okay.
Very
Okay.
curious.
I just started seeing. I keep hitting things. I started seeing suddenly. So like you're the bird, and you like go over like your little your little wings, and you're like going through a filing cabinet. Steam or like smoke like coming out of your ears. I don't know how bird ears work, but like you were focused but like kind of frustrated. Okay, you pull it out and it's a manila folder and it looks different than all the others. It's like pink rather than like the normal kind of pale yellowy color. Um and then it feels like you just completely, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like ice coming over you. So like all of the heat and like steam and smoke and everything where you're on fire slowly like drops over you. I'll pass it back to Christine, but I'm gonna look into like what this folder is representing and or what's inside of it if you were to open it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
I feel like you have this explosive energy inside of you and it feels like it's been like rumbling under the surface. And so like I saw like other analogies in my head. It's like the tea kettle that's about to boil or the volcano that's about to explode. There's this energy inside of you that has been rumbling. This new thing that you're birthing, this new energy that you're putting out would not have been pushed out of you unless you were angry. Like you would not have had the balls or the audacity to go so big if you didn't get angry. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's just crazy because I'm not really much of an angry person,
No.
but I
No.
deal with people who are angry like all the time. And like, yeah.
You're starting something new and it's very, very, very new. It's like I don't even think you're aware of what you're starting just yet. And it feels so big. It feels like it's a shift in your entire life, not just like one part of your life. It's not just like a career change or a relationship change. It's like, are you going through your Saturn return? How old are you? I feel like this is like
I'm
because I am
30.
seeing you're 30. Yeah, I think you're going through your Saturn return. This is a big shift in like who you are as a person, and I'm seeing Saturn, which is why I said that. Do you know much about the Saturn return?
I do
So
not.
basically, it's like when you get to this point in your life, Saturn kind of gets you back in alignment with anything you haven't been in alignment with for the first 30 years of your life.
Yeah, so I can jump back in. Everything that I got when looking into this whole envelope scene completely aligns with what Christine just said. So I saw you opening up that pink manila folder, and there were a bunch of little like cartoon hearts. And so they were like flying off the pages and like shooting into the air. And then they went into your eyes. So then you had like heart eyes seeing things with rose colored glasses, but it was in a good way. So it was the sense that you were shifting your perspective. So, Christine, you were talking about, oh, it's like a change and all these elements. What I wrote down was a change in perspective. It's bigger than just, oh, it's a change in job or change in relationship dynamic or whatever it is, that it's much larger scale. So, when you're bringing up Saturn return, that makes so much sense. So, I'm going through mine too. Um, there can be a lot of upheaval and shifts things coming to an end or recalibrating or realigning, um, so that it can redirect you to do some things differently. Potentially, and a way to interpret what I got is it's like when you get to the other side of it, like you have a different perspective once you've done the work of going through that filing cabinet with the
Mhm.
steam and smoke coming out of your ears.
Yeah.
I'm just being called to remind you that there are going to be gifts at the end of it. Like I bought my apartment after my Saturn return. Like there's so many good things that come after it. So anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just feel like I always knew like when I turn 30, I'll be set. Like I have a house, I have a job, I have a family. And so like it's interesting that now there's going to be something else like I guess for me. It's interesting.
Yeah, we don't stop growing past 30, past 60, past 90. We're always constantly growing. It's great that you've checked all the things off your list. Now, how do we elevate that, right? Like growth is a spiral staircase. So we may pass the same point a couple of times on that spiral, but we're going to continue to elevate and grow.
Is it more so like a spiritual awakening, I guess, or like intuitiveness like growth or
Let's take a look into that and see what it means specifically for you, and then we'll come back.
I did ask the question, okay, well, what through your Saturn return is a big learning curve or learning experience or outcome? And I just keep getting things about houses. Like, so were you saying like did you move, like you have a house?
yeah, we just renovated it and it's finally
Okay.
finished and we're moved in and whatnot.
Okay. So you haven't had any issues with it like while like you renovated it, or like is that still going?
Um, I mean, it's pretty much done. There's some things here and there. We had like some conflict with some contractors, but
Okay.
it took a while. Like it took longer than I thought.
Okay.
And I was channeling to see what you're expected to learn. It's about you finding your own power, you becoming grounded in who you are. When you make a decision, you're thinking about what you want and then also what three other people want at the same time to make the best possible decision. And this is about is best for you in this situation when you are making these decisions, and not from a place of selfishness, but from a place of stability and setting boundaries, right? So if you know what you want first, you can then go and figure out a problem that helps everyone else, knowing what you're not going to compromise on. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is very spiritually mature, right? Finding your voice rather than, oh, we have to learn how to be more responsible. We have to learn how to, budget better. We have to learn how to cook or whatever. It's not so much like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic things that you need to work on. Now you get to work on, if you ask me, the exciting stuff, which is who am I? Why am I here? What do I need? What do I want? So I think that's very cool.
Yes.
What I was seeing is you, again, you're a bird, and you are picking up a bucket. It looks like a beach pail, and it's blue and it has a yellow handle on it. So you pick it up and it's filled with water. And then you look and you see that there's three really, really tiny holes in the bottom. So there's small streams of water coming out. It's not enough that it's completely emptying the bucket and like it's gushing out, but the message tied to this was to make sure that you are checking in with yourself. The recommendation I'm getting is to actually pick 3 days a year. And they're supposed to be special days. So they could be like the day before your birthday, a week before after like an anniversary, or some sort of other milestone. But picking 3 days that are spread out but are tied to some sort of significant life event,
Hmm.
and just doing a small check, like doing a free write for 5 minutes, or just kind of sitting and reflecting, even if you don't write anything down.
Hmm.
Um, but to do that check in, because those little holes are tiny now, but it's about developing a practice of saying, what's the inventory of my life? How am I feeling about the things that I have or the things that I want? If you have the maintenance practice and you can kind of plug those in, you're doing
Mm.
that check, you're lifting the bucket up, you're looking at the underbelly and really getting in touch with where you're at with your alignment. Good exercise to do in a Saturn return, but also in general. It feels to me like it's something that you could do for the next like 1 to maybe 3 years or something. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a life practice, but I keep getting like the threes over and over again. Put a reminder, like a calendar alert or something in your
Mm.
phone. You could even write in the calendar description. That way you could always go back to it. So the main points are like what you have. So the material things. So if you're listing off like what are the most important things that I have? And then the second part are like the values. It feels like it keeps being like threes. So pick like a top three most important assets that you have that you own
Mm.
as an individual. It feels like that's important to differentiate too. And then the second one is values. What do you value about yourself? What you bring to the table, or your growth, or just characteristics about yourself.
Mhm.
And then the third being more like aspirational, three wishes or three manifestations that you hope to have. Something to that effect, but yeah, there's it's super heavy on the threes. Is three a significant number for you elsewhere in life? Because I don't know why I'm getting it so much.
Um, I always wanted 3 kids, but I have two. Siblings, my brother and sister, me, three. I have 3 dogs.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there must be there's something there with the threes,
Sure.
but it feels like kind of leaning into that 3 times a year for 3 years, top threes for three different topics.
Got it.
um,
Easy to
when we
remember.
listen to this back, I can write like what those prompts are down so then we can send it to you. So then if you would like to do this exercise, again, this is all your free will. You can say, oh, that's nice. I don't care about that. I don't want to do it. But that's at least what I was picking up on.
Cool.
Do you want to ask a question so we can get that in and then we'll do like your mantra and stuff? Or
Um, I really wish I thought of like questions before, like to ask. Now I'm like on the spot.
oh yeah, if you don't have questions, it's totally fine. We can start like the closeout process too.
Mhm. And
Um,
honestly, like that does happen with people where they're like, oh, I don't know like what to ask about. But like Christine and I both got a ton of information off of nothing.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we just got off of an initial image. So it's like we were able to give you something without you having to prompt us. You don't need to feel pressure to try to come up with a question if you
Okay.
don't have anything.
Um,
It could also be a topic. You can see like anything that comes up with that area of your life.
yeah, I guess career path.
So you're wondering what that trajectory might be or what you should do next, like to take
Just
action.
like my career and how I will be in like the future with it. Um, am I gonna work a lot? Am I gonna retire early? Am I gonna move up in rank?
Do you do any independent work in your job or is it interactive?
It's both independent and like
Okay.
interactive.
I don't even know how to describe the room, but it's like you were pulling, it kind of looked like a test tube, but it wasn't a lab. But you were pulling like a vial or like something, and then the feeling was that it was analytical, doing your work by yourself. And then it was like, oh, somebody walks in. So that's why I was wondering, are you normally by yourself and working by yourself? Or is it part time because sometimes people pop up? It feels like a networking or reference opportunity, or maybe whatever your current job is, that it's like having that connection. So maybe they are a current or futurely former or currently former coworker, and they're kind of like, hey, over here, I'm learning about this at this other company, and then maybe you want to hop and like do that instead. I'm kind of split between like shifting companies or like whoever it is you're working for because I don't know what kind of a job you're in. I'm seeing like something like swapping out for something else. And it doesn't necessarily feel like Oh, it's a promotion and you're going like to be a director or something relative to whatever position you're in now, that you're like going way up. Doing something that feels related and yet is not the same, or like doing the same work that you're doing now but at another company that allows you to kind of flower and flourish and do a little bit more, expanding your responsibilities. So then you would have the potential in X amount of years' time to actually do something that was going more like up in the ranks.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Does that make sense? Because again, I have no idea what you do.
It does. It makes
Okay.
sense. I could see it, yeah.
Okay.
When I look at your career, you're in this little cute little buggy car and you're driving and you're stopped and there's a fork in the road and there's again three forks. I just realized it was three. The one to the left is bright and sunny, the one to the right has a lot of like tree coverage, the one in the middle just looks like a highway. And you're trucking along and you're trucking along and all of a sudden all of the roads crumble and you're falling like Alice in Wonderland down like that void. And I checked with my pendulum also. It does feel like you're going to stay in the same industry that you're in, but you're not going to stay doing the same thing. Like I almost see you progressing in a way where you're doing more things like socially and networking wise, wise rather than like physicality or grunt work or like basic stuff. Does that make sense? It's like
Yes.
you're not going to be basic forever. I don't know if that's a concern of yours. The universe is going to present that opportunity to you for you to pivot. Um Let me see if I can get like a time frame on this because it feels like it happens very gently and slowly. Like I almost feel like it happens 33 to 35 is when like the process starts of you thinking of doing something different. So what is that, 3 years from now? It's gonna click in your body. Like, somebody's gonna present the opportunity to you, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, I never thought of that, but this feels really good." And that's
Mhm.
when you're gonna go after it, and it just feels like it's such a great pivot, and whatever you're doing now is a fantastic base for whatever it is that you're going to go into. You're gonna go through this transition where you focus on what you want. You're gonna figure out who you are and what your voice is, and then you're gonna get to put that into use in your career, which is like the penultimate for you, right? Like, you get to make a difference every single day. And I just got chills while expressing that. So very cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I pulled a card before the reading because I
Oh,
was
okay.
called to, and I got the Queen of Wands. The keywords associated with it are vivacious, dynamic, authenticity, and it's a strong, independent woman who's not afraid to speak her mind. And I feel like this resonates. Like this was what the entire reading was about. So,
Yeah,
with
that's so
that,
cool.
what Renee and I do at the end of each reading is we pull a mantra for each of our readees, and you can do whatever you want with it. You could do nothing with it. You can put it on your mirror. You can journal with it. You can say it to yourself 3 times a day, every day. The point of it is to just harness the energy from this reading so you can take it with you however you want into the future.
I got one. All right. My mantra for you is my gratitude is my self care.
Mine is hear my roar, ROAR. I know my accent got in there a little bit. Hear my roar. Roar. It's to remind you to use your voice. And I kind of see you using this in situations where you've like had a conversation with somebody and you come back and you're like, I don't like the way that went. And you're going to go confront them again in not in an aggressive way, but in an assertive way. Like, my voice wasn't heard. Spiritual homework wise is singing for you to get you used to using your voice. Just put on a tune that you love and sing out loud to it and just like let those feelings go.
I definitely do that. So
Awesome. Keep doing it.
a good start.
How do you
That was
feel?
that was really cool. It definitely resonated. I loved it. Yeah. I have a feeling I'm just gonna like repeat all this in my head and just be like, yeah, that connects. That makes sense. Like,
It
yeah.
takes time to like integrate everything that happens during a reading. Like, it seems like we're just having a conversation with you, but at like a spiritual level, like something is happening. Today, the next week, the next month, you might still be integrating some of the messages from this reading. So you moved a lot of energy by just being here today. Congratulate yourself, take it easy, drink a lot of water. I'm so happy you were here today.
Yay! I could do this all day.
So did we.
You guys just would be really tired though, because I'm very chaotic energy sometimes.
But I feel better now. I feel better now that we read because I wasn't like
Yeah.
picking up your energy. Not that there's anything wrong with your energy, it's just not my energy. Thanks for listening.
If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with one L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with both of us via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com. Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align. Oh my God.
I feel like my mic's too far away.
You just went to hyperspace. Okay, here we go.
For the listener, I raised my standing desk.
Like a nerd. It just went like.
It's like a spaceship.
That's what it sounded like. Oh my God, I can't.